That guy just looks bad, eh?
Yeah, I really do love his helmet art, actually.
Yeah.
And in most of these pictures, the barbarian is always completely overdone. You can see two weapons in the back, two weapons on his side, and then an axe. How many weapons does this guy break in the course of a fight? Is he just
Well,
throwing swords at people?
Well, he is
he
a
just
killing
hits them
machine.
so hard.
Hello? That's what he does.
I
You
mean,
try.
He needs a backup sword just in case
Hey, all
he
right.
it
has
is
three
dramatically
backup
This,
appropriate
swords.
for
this
him
is this
to
is what I
stab you
want
and
you
then
to do.
snap it off at the hilt.
This is what I want
Dude,
you to do. Put it.
he has
Grab.
more
Grab.
weapons than Goro would need. It's
Grab.
ridiculous.
No, 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 look. Grab two weapons, all right, one in each hand, and I want you to go down one of those like ninja, like training, like kung fu training courses where they have a whole bunch of dummies set up and you just walk down. I want you to spin in a circle real fast and walk down that and see how many of those you hold on to. I'm willing to bet you'll drop a couple in the course of your spinning.
Are we going to have the quick switch W key in Diablo 3 like we did in Diablo 2?
No,
No?
no,
No,
They
we're not.
they want to do away with it. They don't want it.
Good. 'Cause
they said really early that they were getting rid of that.
Okay.
There's a lot of people very upset about it, but I really didn't care. And of course, oh yeah, that was my favorite. The people who didn't care about it obviously didn't know how to use it properly.
I always forgot about it.
I knew how to use it properly. It was a secondary storage space.
Exactly. I was just going to say that's exactly what I used it for. It's like, shit,
Well,
my inventory's full. Oh, wait. W key.
There were actually two major things in gameplay that I used it for. Number one, if you were a barbarian, you could put war cry javelins on there, and now your battle cry and whatnot are 6 levels higher than they should be. And number two, if you were a sorceress and you just started leveling and whatnot, all of a sudden you could throw on an ice shield and then weapon switch back over to your main weapon. So you could actually fundamentally use it to break mechanics, but only in certain instances.
Yep. I used it to dual wield daggers when I was abusing the W switch.
Nice.
Wasn't there a way you could, like, stack auras on your mercenary using that W key?
Hadn't heard of that one.
I remember there was something where you could stack auras for your mercenary. If you had, like, a defensive one, I think, like, the fire one that did damage or something like that, you could stack it just a bazillion times and just run around with your mercenary and shit would die around you.
Crazy. No, I didn't know anything about that one.
Oh, Diablo 2 is so broken.
It wasn't nearly as broken as Diablo 1.
Well, that's true. I like the hacks for that where they're not even, they don't even feel like hacks. You just, all right, and I want to godly play the whale, and you click anywhere on your screen and it just appears.
Or someone joins and you automatically die from anywhere in the game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Next shot we got is another barbarian screenshot. Still got 3 swords on his back, wielding a
He's
giant
got
axe.
he's got his war paint on this one.
Yeah, I was really excited to hear about that whole war
Set.
paint thing. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think it'd be cool. One of the helmets is just war paint.
Well, this helmet's interesting. It's kind of just like protecting his jawline,
A
and then it's got a
necklet.
few spikes like crawling up his head there,
It's like a really crazy choker.
so his
It's
head
like
doesn't get cut off.
it's like two claws just like mashed onto his face.
Yeah. Also, I noticed if you check out that axe he's holding, that looks a lot like the one we see in those in-game PvP shots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gives me hope.
Well, like I was gonna say earlier, if you ever played Diablo 2 and you saw, the great axe and it was two-sided and then you actually saw the animation on screen and you were always disappointed.
Yeah.
I really love the double-bladed axes in Diablo 3.
Mhm.
And the fact that they've taken all of the items that go on the paper doll and they actually appear on screen the way that they do on the paper doll. That's amazing to me.
Next shot we got coming up in a few seconds here will be the male witch hunter. No. I've had too many beers, man.
Witch Hunter.
Witch hunter, that's a new one. New class for the expansion. Witch doctor, male witch
That was a
doctor. Beer plus I hear myself as I talk. It's just not a good combination.
yeah, about that.
He's got a flail.
I love this one.
Yeah,
You
very good
right.
action shot. Victor Lee, one of my favorites.
2007.
That's right.
Cool.
That and he has a bear claw On one hand, that's pretty epic win, I'd say.
Bear Claw wielding a flail.
Yeah.
Not a medieval flail. That is some crazy jungle flail.
It's
Yeah.
like just reminds me of those little like Gidbin guarding little freakers. It's like a head with horns and whatever.
I like this one, and I like this one for a lot of reasons, and it's something that I've harped on since I joined the show, but I just want to restate how much I love that they're spreading out in terms of cultures to draw on for fantasy imagery. We've had so many years of just, European, like West European history being the foundation of fantasy art that I think it's great to see Polynesian, Southeast Asian, African being brought to the inspiration for good guy art. Traditionally, it's either been not present at all or used for the hostiles. And here we've got a good guy it's a little bit Polynesian, it's a little South American, it's a little bit African, all brought together and made fantastic.
Right. This could just as easily be like mob concept art screenshot, a boss or something.
You see that right hand, man, he's a Zulu tribesman. He's got javelins, he's got that crazy shield going. Would not mess with that dude. I don't know. What do you think is the main core driven culture for the face mask?
For the face mask, I would say African, probably like Zulu, Sub-Saharan West Africa.
I want to know what that little trinket hanging from his belt is.
Yeah, that little jeweled spike or something. Maybe it's a tooth.
Yeah.
Who knows?
The Anilus charm.
Nice. If you did not get that joke, you can leave right now.
What does a dude witch doctor need with a dildo chick? Wait, you know what? Don't answer that.
Check.
You know what? I actually want to change what I said as far as primary influence. I want to change. I was going to say that I wanted to change it to pygmy, sort of a not Polynesian but Micronesian influence, and then I realized I'm like, that's probably one of the things that makes it so great is it reminds me of so many different cultural influences that I am actually having trouble really pinning down what I would say is the main influence. It feels right, but it doesn't actually look like African or Micronesian or Polynesian or Aztec or Incan, but it feels like them all at the same time.
Yeah, that's kind of the key point I was going to bring up about is that even though it has a lot of cultural influence, it has so much that you can't really isolate any one particular thing for any one particular thing. Even the shield is really stylized to a point where you couldn't really just narrow it down to a single culture, I think.
Whatever culture it is, I am not mad at it. It looks amazing.
Agreed.
Next bit of concept art we got up looks like some early caravan work.
I think this is the shanty town outside of Old Tristram.
Could be.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Looks like a blacksmith shop. You got the furnace out there. Some dude working with a mallet up front. Building
And
some
a
weapons.
potential
So
buyer.
stoked for the merchants. So stoked for them. For the crafting and all that. Just,
So, do you think they'll still have local smithies in the towns that you go around to, or will your caravan members pretty much take care of that? Your
Thought
artisans.
the caravan followed you. Pretty
Yeah,
sure
it
the
does,
caravan follows
but
you.
this
Oh.
looks like a pretty stationary building, so I'm saying, will your caravan members, outweigh the dudes that you'll come across in town?
Well, Old Tristram is the first area, so presumably they need to have all the amenities that you need there for you, and then you recruit caravan members throughout Act 1, or maybe Act 1 and Act 2, or over a period of time you recruit caravan members, and then they are with you throughout the rest. But then again, when you're in, that's a good question, when you're in Chaldeum, do you go to the local merchants, or do you go to your caravan?
Right, that's what I'm wondering.
I think
Good
the main
question.
thing that occurs to me about the question is just, what if I don't pick up all of the dudes? What if one of mine is just really underleveled? It would make more sense to have, local merchants in every place in addition to the caravans. but that's just me.
If they do end up having that, will it be scaled competition? Whereas, you have a high-level merchant that travels around with you, but then you go to a town and you go check out their gear or their services or whatever, and, what would be the point if it doesn't scale with your merchant too?
I doubt they'll scale, and for main reason, and this is what's crossing my mind as we're talking about it, is that if you haven't invested in a given merchant, or if you even skipped that merchant's rescue quest or joining quest, then really all they need along the way is to provide merchants at key points to make sure that you're up to the bare minimum. So let's say you've poured everything into your blacksmith, and by the time you get to Chaldeum, you're going to go to your caravan blacksmith because he's maxed up, but your gem crafter has been completely neglected. You still need access to, mid-level gems in order to remain competent at the game numerically. So they kind of need to give you access to that. What you're not going to have is the edge that you'd get by pouring resources into your gem crafter, or the special things that you would get by pouring resources into your gem crafter.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pros and cons, pros and cons.
Speaking of caravan merchants, that's the next bit of concept art we got up. This piece looks like... I really have no idea what merchant that would be. Or maybe it's not a merchant at all.
I would say, if anything, it'd probably be the Mystic, right?
I don't know. We got a weird sign up there with some strange writing.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's more of the
Go by
shanty
the
town
shape.
outside Old Tristram.
Right. It's got a broken axle. Someone's permanent residence, maybe, up in Tristram, since they can't move on. That's kind of like the end of the road for them.
Probably.
But remember, each of the merchants have their own specific shapes that their caravans are shaped.
Yeah.
The Mystic was all roundy and rounded and circles and such. So you can kind of tell with those. And I don't think that really looks like any of them.
Yeah, that's why I said if anything, because it does have a rounded top, and you could essentially connect them and make a circle out of them or something along those lines.
Looks like we got a nice white marble structure in the background there, kind of peeking through the trees up on a hill. What do you make
Yeah, I
of
was
that?
wondering about that. I mean, that it could be
The
a
cathedral?
church.
No, it doesn't quite look like the cathedral. And plus, the cathedral's kind of like right in town in Tristram.
Right. It wouldn't be that cathedral. It wouldn't be that church, simply because the design is all off. If you look closely at this picture, you'll notice that it doesn't have those rounded sections that the Tristram Cathedral does have.
Right.
Not to mention this thing looks white, which also wouldn't be congruent. So if anything, it actually looks like a big mausoleum sitting up on top of a hill.
On the official website, this piece of concept art is found on the page for Tristram.
Okay.
So this is Tristram artwork. So what that thing in the distance is, a mausoleum, just some piece of old architecture that the artist added to the background so that there would be
Get
a
some
background.
contrast.
Yeah, some
Right.
contrast, some depth, and not necessarily anything specific.
I mean, even something like that has a lot of cultural ties. You could take the mounds in Great Britain and kind of examine this and superimpose that idea on it, even though the functionality would be different.
We got some speculation with the listeners. Leoric's tomb, perhaps? The monastery from Act 1?
Hard to say.
Could be like a village of people who kind of don't want to live with the ruffians in Tristram, so they started their own little cleansed society outside Tristram.
I'd
Well,
rather doubt
what
that's
we-
the Rogue Monastery.
What we've got with Tristram, the scenario, so there's Old Tristram, which is the monastery and the shops that we know from the first two games, which is basically burned to. Then there's New Tristram that was built outside, which was a series of new shops that attracted treasure hunters and miners and traders and just new healthy business. And then a shanty town that was set up outside of that when they got kind of a gold rush influx. And then the demons came back, and now kind of the settled part of New Tristram is supposedly abandoned, but there's still people basically stuck in the shanty town, and there's almost no one left because everyone who could get out did get out, and a lot of those who didn't get out are now dead.
Throwing on the piles of bodies burning.
Interesting nonetheless.
This is a fun show. I like concept art.
Oh, me too. Some of my favorites. Next piece of concept art we got looks like inside Tristram. New Tristram shantytown. Little destroyed structure here falling apart, but somebody is living there. Got a nice warm light on the inside. What's that sign say?
Boat mill or goat mill, maybe?
Goat Mill